I'm going crazy fast because of the delay. That was my amazing sword player, my stick work. Are we live? Check, check, 1, 2. Twitch, can you hear me? It's Sweaty Sundays with Scott Tate, your head coach at Game Without Pain. We're making some exciting changes over at the academy, so please log in, check it out. We're really making this the go-to and the baseline physical literacy tool for all gamers. So what you're going to get out of Sweaty Sundays is taking this baseline of awesomeness for building you and throwing on some more intensity. So our strength conditioning coaches, we've got the ability to provide more advanced exercises and more accessory exercises if you already are lifting. And then with the academy, you'll get all the baseline stuff you need to really take advantage of coaching services or take advantage of a gym. So what you're going to get today, increasingly in these Sweaty Sundays, is more of a workout, a little less education, more of a workout, and we're adding additional Twitch days to cover some more questions around injuries, aches and pains, and specific exercises. So without further ado, we'll get going. We'll start with our circles, kind of the major gamer warm-up, kind of our pre-game, mid-game suggested warm-up for all gamers of all ages and abilities. So it's shoulder blade circles, nice big range of motion. And again, the goal is to get good range of motion at the shoulder segment and your shoulder blades, your scapula. So 3 to 5 in one direction, 3 to 5 in another direction, nice and slow. We get some blood moving, we get some fluids moving, we get the area warm so your brain's talking to it. Next, we'll do our head, neck, and shoulders. And nice big circles. So today's workout, we're going to cover some accessory lifts to the big ones like squats and deadlifts. So squats and deadlifts, you'll hear those as the kind of the king and queen of exercises. You know, the big two, if you're going to do 2 movements, what are you going to do? It's generally squats and deadlifts. If you're going to add a third and a fourth, it's usually dips or some kind of press and pull. So we'll cover those big 2, and we'll talk about some accessory movements for those other 2 upper body movements as well. So we got our shoulders, we got our neck. We're going to go through arm circles next. We got our arms warmed up. That's big long circles. Again, pretend like you're throwing a nade. So if you're joining us from World Gaming, you're going to come out to some of those tournaments, you'll see likely some of our 7th inning stretch style movements. So we're taking votes right now on what the name of that exercise is going to be. We all played baseball, we're familiar with baseball, but we'll come up with some name that's a little more relevant to our people. What did we come up with the other day, Ben? Can you remember? I meant Ben here is going to try and be the memory bank for us. Nice big...
The oldest one in the group.
The oldest one in the group. Nice big fluid circles, arms and shoulders. So we got shoulders, we got arms, we're going to get into our elbows. So we got elbow circles. And the goal here is to warm ourselves up, get our brains into our bodies so our bodies can perform at peaks. So whether you're competitive gaming, you're just sitting down enjoying the stream and gaming, watching some of the tournaments on today, we need all these segments moving well for us to do whatever we got to do, whether it's life, work, gaming, play. We're into our fingers now, so you can do finger extension exercises. We're working on circles to keep that theme nice and simple for you. The more your joints move, the better information they give to your brain, and the quicker your hand-eye coordination is. Well, it's pretty simple. So we're going back into our arms and shoulders. I like doing a little playtime. I used to do a little shot put, do my discus, pick an activity, pick a sport, and mimic those movements. A great way to start to get some intensity in and getting this whole upper body and mid-back moving. So the next thing we're going to cover is a little more advanced. We're looking at rotation. So following our circles, we do hip circles, we'll go our knee, ankle, and then we'll do our back opening. We're going to look at more rotation today. So most big exercise happens just straight up and down or forward and backwards. Think of squats and deadlifts, jumping maybe. But twisting and rotating is where we get a lot of sport performance and where our brain really lights up. As soon as you cross your body's midline, your brain has to transmit, a ton of information. So going back to our hip circles, we'll start to add some of those twists and rotations in. It's a great way to complement any major strength training program. So a lot of people get injured or overuse injuries because we do the same motions again and again. And whether that's gaming or training, you can only do so many of the same movements before you wear stuff down. And if you're not balancing yourself and really doing them perfectly and ideally, you're going to wear down that much faster. So adding in some rotation movements, some twisting and throwing movements, you might see medicine ball throws and work. Any of that type of rotational work, we'll see a lot of that today as a complement to your basic strength training programming. We're also going to get into some more specific exercises for those little joints, the important parts around the knee and around the shoulder that are often injured as well. And you'll see rotator cuff exercises being done all over the place in gyms. We're working on knee circles right now. We're talking about this theme of accessory work. So you'll see rotator cuff exercises, and we'll describe those in some detail today, as well as go over some knee stability exercises. So again, the theme today is getting a bit more work done, showing you some more exercise and intensity, as well as starting to highlight some of the additional things you can do for your programming, whether if you're already in the gym or already playing sports, A, to reduce your chance of injury in that type of training, and B, to enhance your overall performance with that type of training. So whether the goal is to lose weight, or to build muscle, or just reduce pain and improve your performance in the game, the rules are the same. You gotta work hard enough for your body to adapt. If you're not working hard enough, your body's not gonna change. And if you're not working smart enough, you're probably just wearing yourself down. And when we're getting into competitive season here for most of the games that our athletes are involved in, we need to manage our energy more effectively. So at Game Without Pain, you'll see a lot more articles coming out about more advanced coaching principles. Trying to really talk to the athletes and their coaches to get them thinking about not wearing down during our gaming times and during these competitive seasons. So we've done our knee circles, ankle circles, wrist, hands, we've done all our major joints. So we're going to get down and look at our spine more specifically, and then we're going to come back to some of these ideas we talked about as far as twisting. So this is Ben's favorite. This is the Kim Kardashian spinal exercise. So we're looking for full flexion and full extension of our spine. So if you have any questions, follow along on Twitch, or if you have shoot a note out to our academy, we'll respond there as well. So what we're doing is bringing our spine into full flexion, and then one segment at a time, opening up. So we're going to full spinal extension here. So if any of this causes pain, it's a red flag. Say, hey, you know what, I should probably reach out to those guys at Game Without Pain. If you're in Toronto, you can come visit us. And if you're down in LA, Denver, Vancouver, we might be coming out your direction soon. So I can keep us in the loop. So again, spine by spine by spine, trying to get every little segment of your vertebrae to open up. So we want to be able to go through big, full ranges of motion. Before we get loading things up. So if you can't take your body through a big range of motion, there's no point in throwing weight on it or doing a ton of repetitions on top of that. You're just going to fall apart. Now you can practice your squats to a lower depth, or your deadlifts not quite as heavy and not quite as deep. But if you get to a certain position and your form falls apart, you're just building a risk up for injury. So we like practicing those essential movements that we'll talk about today as low as you can comfortably without losing a few things. Number one, don't lose your knee line. So make sure your knee stays over that middle toe. So when we're squatting today, we're working on our single leg accessory stuff, making sure the knee stays over that foot. Number two, make sure that head stays in line and your ear stays in line with your shoulder. So as you're doing your exercises today, if you find you're losing that head position, that's when you can back off. Don't worry about going lower if you sacrifice that head and neck line. The third thing we're talking about and focusing on is this lumbar spine, this lower back, another commonly injured area. So we need to make sure that we can move our pelvis safely and comfortably. We can hinge at our hip joint and at our knee joint without losing our back position. So as we get doing any of these movements, or if you're already training in the gym and you can't keep this position as you squat, whether one leg or two leg, if that shape changes at all, you know you're going to risk yourself of an injury, or at the very least, some irritation that's going to lead you not being able to focus on whatever you're up to, whether it's gaming or just enjoying the stream. So we got the three lines. The last one you're going to focus on is this shoulder line. Some of the pros we're already working with, they've got impingement that runs all the way down and affects their hand performance. The source of it seems to be fairly regularly up in the shoulder as well as in the back of the arm through the tricep. So anytime our positioning is off, we put strain on these tissues. So all the exercises we'll show you today that are upper body focused accessory movements are designed to help you get better awareness of that line. If this line is off, you're going to have decreased performance here. So we need this line to be healthy and stable. Even when we're in poor positions, when we're gaming for prolonged periods of time, this is much better than this. So these little changes make a big difference. So as we get going through the exercises, we start to get sweatier on this Sweaty Sunday. Keep those four lines in mind, and we'll give you lots more information about that as time goes on. So we're going to look at the squat and the deadlift a bit today. So we're going to start with the dowel. If you're at the gym already, if you've got a nice little setup at home, you can set up with a barbell if you want. But I like starting with just a dowel, just a piece of wood. It's a broomstick. Make sure you're in the right position. You're going to get the stick between your butt cheeks, between your shoulder blades, and on your head. So a little space here and a little space in the neck. So I'll show you again. A little space in the neck. If that space is too big, that's not what we want. We want to close that space a little bit just so I can slide my hand in and grab comfortably. So that's one way to set up for neutral spine. And we'll practice on loosening our hamstrings up, these muscles back here, with some hinging. So I add these into any squat or deadlift workout. My clients will do 3 to 5 of these. If they're really strong, we'll get down, we'll go from here into an overhead raise to really light up all the muscles in your back. So all these muscles should be working pretty hard at this point. You can hold for 15 seconds. I can try and push down a little further. I can add a little knee bend as long as I'm still getting a nice stretch. Make sure my core is on. Push out another 15-second hold. 15, 14. So all the muscles in my back should be lighting up. I'm also nice and tight in here. So my abdominals are working. My whole core is working. I'm not looking up. I'm keeping my head down. So again, if I put that stick back, I should be in basically the same position all the time. So there's my hamstring warm-up. Starts to get my back turned on as well. Next layer on top of that, to keep in the seam and working in my squats and deadlifts, I'll take this bar back over to my shoulders and I'll start to work on my squat depth. So you go to where you go without losing that spine. So again, at the bottom, I can still keep these 3 points. So I'm pretty good. I get any lower than here, and you'll notice that spot in my lower back loses its position. So my spot's right about there. So you go to where you can, keeping that line. And the other thing you can play around with as you're squatting is your foot stance. Everyone's hips are built differently. So if you're squatting, you're into gaming, you've been sitting a ton, you're not going to have the best communication to the hips. So you're going to really play around with your foot position to find the most comfortable spot for your squat. Again, knees are over your toes, so they're not collapsing in. Make sure they're out. Stick's great for that. Hang out in the squat position if you can. If you want to get real nasty, you can work on getting an overhead press in here. This is an overhead squat. Really advanced progression of the squat. With the dowel, it's tough enough. And if you've got a mirror to something to look into, you can see if you twist or change position at all. So, to get a little sweat going, sweaty ear going, we're going to do 5 of these as deep as you can. You're looking for a big stretch in your groin, feeling these muscles in your upper back working, and feeling enough stiffness in here so if someone gave you a shove, you'd be on and active. Any questions, you can toss a note on Twitch. You can log into our Facebook or Twitter and toss us a question if you have one there. Good, a little 5-second hold, big squeeze up. We start to think about really using the glutes at the top of this too. So I'm going to push down. As I sit down into my squat, I'm trying to push my knees apart using my glutes. I'm trying to open up my hips to get down there nice and deep and stay in that stretch and squeeze up. There should be a lot of work and a nice deep stretch keeping that knee open over those toes. So my foot position looks something like this. Your squat position might have your toes pointed more forward and a narrower stance. My hips are built differently, so if I try that position, it's tougher for me to get down. I can't get as low. If I go a little wider, I can get down there no problem. As long as your knee's over your foot, you're reducing risk of injury. As long as your lower back is in that nice position, you're pretty much good to go. If it's tough getting into this overhead position, now's when we'll start to work on some rotator cuff exercises. So we'll get down on the floor for this guy. I'll give you a couple options to look at. So your rotator cuff is a group of muscles. There's 4 major ones and a couple accessory muscles that basically keep this ball and socket in the right place. They also work on keeping that shoulder blade sliding nicely. If it's sliding up too much, it's hard to get our arms up overhead. If it's in the right position, we can move nicely. So it's about communication and timing. So for your rotator cuff, you can start with something small. This is 5 pounds, and this might even be a little heavy for a lot of us. So if we get on our sides, the first thing you're going to do is kind of slide your shoulder blade back. And I'll spin around so you can watch that again. So I'm going to take my shoulder blade and pack it down my back. So almost like I'm lifting it up and packing it down. At which point, my elbow should be resting pretty much at my hip. So if your elbow's up at your ribs, you're not in the right spot. Elbow down by your hip. You can prop yourself up if you're strong enough. You can get right down and get comfy for this guy if you're not. A little fashion model shot. So from here, you're going to pack that shoulder and try and keep it packed there as you try and spin this weight up to parallel. You're going to feel a big grab in the back of your shoulder, the back of your arm, and try and keep that grab as you rotate down. So don't let gravity win. Keep everything packed and nice spin up. So this is a great way to talk to all these muscles in your shoulder blade, a great way to build awareness. And as far as tempo, have a 1-2 up, make sure you feel controlled, and about 3 to 4 seconds down. And one of our coaches you'll see regularly in the academy and in our coaches corner, he works with a system called Charles Poliquin developed called structural balance. So he'll focus on specifically getting a ratio of strength to this exercise to your bench press. So if you want to bench 200 pounds to achieve whatever goals you have, be it strength, hypertrophy, and size, you'll need to be able to do 20 pounds of this, so approximately 10% of this exercise. It's a variety of positions, but that's one of their minimum balance goals. Whew. So after a few, you should feel a pretty good amount of fatigue through the back of the shoulder, into the arm, and into your lats as well if you're really keeping things stable. A sloppy repetition, to look at that again, might look something like this from the side. So I pack my shoulder in, and on the way up, my shoulder slides around. Not what we want. We want the shoulder to stay back, and if you get to a certain point here, your arm wants to slide back. We're no longer getting the rotation. We're trying to rotate that ball and socket, and that's all we're moving. So the shoulder blade's not moving a ton. It's just ball and socket moving, ball and socket moving. Whew. So again, great exercise. If you have any problem getting overhead with that squat, any problem with overhead pressing, if you lose your back position, it might come back to a rotator cuff stability problem. I'm going to the other side so I don't walk around being all twisted. And if you're wondering about how this relates to Sweaty Sundays, you'll see in a second how this ties into bench press, push-ups, pull-ups, any of our rowing, even our squats and our deadlifts need healthy awareness of this upper back position. And back to the gamer injuries we've seen, some of the professionals we're working with again have entrapment or irritation of the nerve tract that runs all the way down to the pinky and the rest of the hand. So if you're not getting good positioning and good strength development in this region, you're at risk of getting some neural injuries, let alone other injuries to the rest of your body that can take you out of training and out of gaming. So again, setting the shoulder back. 1 is the roll back, 2 is this spin, and 3 is the way down. There's different ways we can organize pausing here. We can have a little pause at the bottom. We can do a pause part way, make sure we're set. Pause part way, make sure we're still set. Pause at the top where you get that nice big squeeze, and really try and keep that squeeze on the way down. We can take 4 or even 5 seconds down here. And this is called eccentric training. So concentric is a big contraction. Eccentric is when that contraction is resisting against gravity. Gravity wants to take me out. I gotta stay packed in. So this is your external rotator. External rotation, pardon me. What you'll see, I have the advantage of the Twitch camera here, so if you got a mirror, also make sure that you're not up here. Not a lot of benefit up here. Your benefit's about 90 degrees of elbow flexion. Too far forward, and you don't get that same work either. Too far back, limited. 90 degrees is your sweet spot. And you can use a dumbbell here. This could be a soup can if it's too heavy for you. Nice and steady down. It's a nasty little exercise. Great to do a few of these before a bench press or before an upper body day to make sure that your brain is really talking to this region. If one side's way tougher than the other side, probably a good idea to do dumbbell work that day and not barbell work. Versus doing 4 to 5 sets of these things is not a good exercise to do pre a big upper body day or any body day. This is a post-fatigue exercise. So it's 2 or 3, make sure you're in the zone. 4 or 5 if you know there's some problems that like limit this muscle from working effectively, but not for sets of 10 or 12 before you do a big bench press. Unless you're a really experienced lifter, and then you can really get your brain and your body and almost use this as a meditation exercise to really get yourself dialed in.
says he'll paint you like one of his French girls.
That sounds awesome. I don't know what that means exactly.
You know, like the French girls that lay on the couch. Like on the
Oh,
side.
yes! The voluptuous, that's awesome. I'll take that any day. That's awesome. I'll take that as a compliment. So next we're going to work on a shoulder press. So as far as our big body workouts, we're going to come back into our overhead squats and stuff. We're going to stay with this accessory lifting idea before we get back into these squats. So what we talked about earlier was kind of our overhead squat position. If it was tough to get back here, it might be some of these rotator cuff stability muscles. It also might be core muscles. So instead of doing every exercise standing, if we do exercises in this tall kneeling position or half kneeling, we have to get some more hip engagement, which is awesome. So hip engagement looks something like this. Sitting back, squeeze this glute, push your hip forward. You should get a little bit of a stretch in there. Keep your posture nice and tall, and we're going to use our little trusty dumbbell here to go straight up and down. So our goal is for that bicep to basically cover my ear. So if my press position looks like this, I'm not covering that ear, and I'm straining all these muscles in my shoulder blade. If my press position looks like this, I'm pretty sure that I'm safely using all my shoulder muscles, my rotator cuff muscles. I've got my head nice and tall, and you notice if there's a plumb line right next to me, I'm pretty much straight through my knee, through my elbow, and can I balance here? Well, hold it under my arm. Okay, Ben's got some ideas like this. Oh, Ben's a genius. Straight up and down. What my angle? It's really hard to do this on Twitch, just so you guys know. The time lapse is messing me up. It's pretty much bang on though. So you notice I'm a straight line.
It's cool how you can see the Twitch view like that.
Yeah.
You're getting a sense.
So that's my nice straight line. If I'm practicing this exercise and you notice my back loses its position, or my shoulder loses its position, or my head loses its position, then it's not a good idea for me to do overhead press and overhead squats. So this is a great way to get your, really see and feel your ability to keep a nice tall neutral spine. So I don't need a ton of weight on here. I'll twist around to face you guys and I'll switch out my legs because I feel like it. So I got that knee over my foot. I got my hip engaged so I'm nice and tall. And you notice that my arm is coming straight up, right in line with my ear. I'm pretty close to it. I'm not trying to come over my head. Just nice straight up and down. So if you're doing this exercise, you notice this is as close as you can get. Again, good red flag. You shouldn't be doing overhead press and probably even bench press. Making sure that you can get this line to stay nice and straight. And this is just 5 pounds, but I can still feel all the muscles in my glute and my hip working to keep me balanced and not swinging around. If I want to get a bit more demanding, I can take this theme, add some more weight to it, and there's a bit more work. Peacefully Evil. Is it Peaceful Evil? Nice. If you have any questions, fire them off, man. I'm here right now, hanging out, doing some half kneeling shoulder press, thinking about how to make life better for gamers. So the exercise will improve posture. All right, amazing. So what you'll notice in this exercise, Peaceful Evil, is this is pretty much perfect posture. So any exercise you do from an ideal position is going to improve your posture. Some extra exercises, extra things you can do to really improve that depending on where your posture is compromised from. So if you want to send us a quick tweet with a picture of you and your workstation and your basic posture, it'll help us a ton pick better exercises for you. Basically, we lose posture in 3 main areas. 1, head and shoulder position. So even just getting into this tall position and working on that chin tuck is a great postural exercise, pardon me. So inhale, exhale, stack your chin so your ear is right over your shoulder. So that's the first area. This neckline is often compromised. So if we live here, we're going to have problems. So this is a great exercise. We're strengthening these deep muscles here, your longus coli, deep chin packs, a chin tuck exercise. Another good way to visualize this, if you're a Superman, you got laser beams coming out of your eyes, you shoot them straight ahead and then you force your head back. There's so much power there. So that's your deep chin tuck. Great postural exercise. Number 2 is this shoulder position. So if we have a good head position, but our shoulders aren't pulled back, we're not going to get the same benefits. So Peaceful Evil, we got 1 and we got 2. So just working on this idea of shoulder retraction So if you want to add to that, you can stretch your hands out front, pull your shoulder blades back. So if you got something to aim for, you can see on my screen, it looks like I'm almost touching our nice banner here from EGLX. And I'm going to try and pull back with my elbows not bending. This is just retraction. So can I talk to my shoulder blades? Yes and no. And you notice my head will come forward a little bit as I reach, but I finish with that nice chin tuck as well. So there's my mid-back. Next is the ability to pack. So can I elevate my shoulder blades and can I pack them down? So most of us live upwardly elevated and forward. So we need the ability to get our head, neck, and shoulders back in place. So using the same visual cue in my arms, I'm going to lift up and shrug up, and then try and shrug down. Lift up and shrug down. And you notice my hands are coming around into a row position here. So what we can add to this exercise is, I'm going to come up, I'm going to row back and squeeze. I'm keeping my head in a nice tall position. So my shoulder blades are pulling back and down, and I'm trying to squeeze my lats together so that they're really tight against the sides of my body here. So I'm not trying to over-rotate. I'm just bringing my elbows back to in line with my body, maybe a little bit behind my body. The third area for exercise to work on that posture. So we got 1, peaceful evil, 2, getting the shoulder blade control, and then 3 is this lumbar control. Lower back pain irritates most adults at a certain point in their life and really dramatically stresses out a lot of our gamers and our streamers. So we need the ability to move this pelvis around. Again, this tall kneeling position is a great way to practice. It can be tough on the knees, so feel free to go to half kneeling to practice this. But all you're going to work on is your ability to point your belly button down and then lift up so your belly button is pointing straight ahead. So belly button or headlight straight ahead, down. Straight ahead, down. This is your pelvic tilt. If you can't control this, it's going to be really difficult to build good core strength and fix anything up top. Your brain talks top to bottom to that spine, that spinal cord. So we got our tilt, and a little bit of squeeze to get a stretch on there to challenge it. So for the other movements, we added some pushing and pulling, some compression, and some movement here to strengthen them up. For this lower back, we're going to add a stretch to challenge you. So again, we're going to set our pelvis so the headlights are pointing straight ahead, not down, but straight ahead. And then I'm going to use this glute to push forward. As I push in, when we're sitting a ton, usually it's muscles in the front here, your psoas, that are really tight, and they pull the pelvis away. So we keep that short, and we push in, let the stretch be our resistance. So as we push in, the stretch is trying to pull you away, but you're keeping everything locked in place. So all around, hopefully what you got out of this peaceful evil, for posture, this position, tall kneeling, half kneeling or tall kneeling, is a great way to really improve your posture from a variety of positions. 1, we set the bottom. 2, we set the top. 3, we set the neck. So we can do pushing and pulling from here, and you're getting good core strength here because you're trying to, as the weight wicks away, your body will kind of want to lean back to make this easier. So if we stay nice and tall and work on our bench press here, we're pretending like we're bench pressing, or we can pretend like we're rowing and we're trying to break this thing in half and really try and break the bar and pull it to you. Working on this practices our ability to bench press and row. Keeps us in that nice tall posture, so making sure that we're not getting lazy. And then we can do the same thing for overhead press if you want. This is tougher if you have a real challenge getting this upper body posture in place. This will be hard, but if you can try going straight up and down from here as well. So straight up and straight down. So you notice if I drop that stick on my back, I'm in this nice tall position all the time. So I'm practicing perfect posture with every exercise I do, basically. So to keep it simple, peacefully evil, every exercise is a good way to practice good posture or a great way to practice shitty posture. So it's up to you how you perform it. If you have questions, that's why we're around. That's why Game Without Pain exists, is to answer some of those questions, take a look at your video, and help you make the most of your exercise. But getting back into the theme of today, we'll keep rocking some higher intensity stuff. So we kind of broke off a little bit. I know Ben wanted me to challenge things a little bit more, so we're going to increase the hustle. I'm going to get some water to do that. We're at the halfway point, so we'll fire away. So, without further ado, let's take that squat we were playing with earlier as a warm-up. Let's take this push and pull we were just working on and that rotator cuff and put this into a mean circuit. So mid-game or post-game is a great way to dial up the intensity a little bit. If you're being competitive, I'd wait till after the game, but if you're just having a fun game day, just practicing some skills with your characters, just fire away and just give her in this mid-game time. Pre-game's the time just do a little body warm-up, a little bit of those circles we practiced earlier and get your brain and your body. But that mid and post game in particular, a great way to dial up the intensity. So here's a good little 3 exercise circuit to practice good posture, strengthen up the shoulder, and get some energy moving around to perhaps move towards fat loss or muscle gain, or just getting a general better energy level and focus. So we're gonna use that squat, my favorite exercises, and we're gonna go squat, push up, deadlift, and we're just gonna use the dowel for this. So to make it tougher for me, I'm gonna go overhead squat. So I'm gonna go for 10, with about 3 seconds down, and 1, 2 up. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 2, 3. I'm terrible at counting. 1, 2. So I'm going to assume I'm going to do about 10. But I'm talking at the same time. Ben can count with me, but I think he's focused somewhere else. That's got to be 6.
I'm 30 seconds behind you.
Oh, shit. I'm screwed. This whole 30-second count thing's no good for me. I'm going to say that's 10. I'm going to come down for my push. So if I've got weak shoulders and any kind of neck injuries, I can work on just this push and pull we practiced earlier. I'm in pretty good shape, so I'm going to drop down for a push-up. So my nice push-up plank, I've used those rotator cuff muscles today, so I'm all dialed in. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. I'm practicing that pelvic tilt we practiced earlier. Making sure that I'm in this nice position. I'm not like this as I push up. Very different push up. Ask our man Matt Tevis or Mr. Raimundo. You know what good push-ups feel like after some game without pain time. Again, I've lost count. We'll do one more for good measure. Then I can work on the deadlift. We haven't covered this much today. The first thing we looked kind of deadlift like was this founder hinge. You'll see this a lot in our academy and our program. So I'm coming down. I'm going to raise up. And this is more of a good morning. So we're just keeping everything nice and long. Getting a stretch of my hamstrings. So the stretch comes here. A little bend of the knee is okay. And then the squeeze comes from here. Trying to push my heels straight into the ground. Pushing back. Now this is tough. You can go to just stick on your shoulders. And if that's still tough for your shoulders, you can work on this motion. Just to knees. And if you got some weights, like I do, we can do dumbbell deadlifts. So we're down. The main difference between a deadlift and a squat is a deadlift, the weight's generally below your hips. And a squat is generally above somewhere. Otherwise, it's hips, knees, and ankles bending at different speeds and different rates. I can let my knees bend a bit more, and I get more glutes here if I let my knees bend more. So I'm gonna do 2 more like that. A big squeezing hard in my glutes without hyperextending. Just finishing nice and tall. So I'm pushing back, hips extend, but my back stays pretty square. So that's my little circuit number 1. If I go through that 3 times, I bet you're gonna be a little tired. A little variety, however, if you're pretty strong in your squats, here's a nice alternate to the overhead squat. We'll go to a single leg squat, sitting back. Put your weight down on that back leg just a touch, just so your knee doesn't hit hard, and try and keep the same line we're practicing. So if you're squatting or deadlifting and your one leg is not as strong as the other, you're going to create twisting and torquing. Not twerking, but torquing. And this will cause a ton of problems for your SI and your lower back. It can affect other areas, but that's usually where it comes. So a single leg squat variation. I've got is stick on my shoulders to make sure that I'm not all over the place. It gives me a little something to squeeze on and keeps my core engaged. And if you need to, you can make this a lunge by taking more of the weight on your back leg. But if you're up for it, join me for the single leg ride. Killer. Just got big glutes, and to piece of Evil's point earlier, every exercise is a neutral spine and good posture exercise. If I'm in this position, and I'm doing it well, golden. Look at my spine, nice and long. If I try this exercise, and the bottom looks like this, not so much a good posture exercise, not a good strength exercise. So I'm sitting back. And what we're looking for is differences right and left in strength. Whew, lost it there a little bit. It's got to be close to 10. Big glutes doing the work, quads doing the work, and all these muscles on my feet are doing the work. You notice again without pain, as you get ready to brand some special footwear, which I'll tell you about in future episodes. We do a lot of stuff without shoes on, so you can work on all the stabilizing muscles in your feet. So if you are squatting or deadlifting, I totally encourage you, massively, importantly, hugely encourage you, I'm out of breath a little bit, pardon me, to try stuff with your bare feet. If you got shoes on, you're probably not using the muscles in your feet effectively, and you might even be slowly causing some irritations or some injuries in there. So try things with your feet off. It's great information for you. Particularly if you have bunions, I guarantee you're not using your foot musculature correctly, and you could be working yourself towards an injury. So we're going to pull exercise. We did a push-up this round. Our last round, we're going to do a pull exercise this round. So to keep this deadlift theme and the squat theme going, we do a bent over deadlift, bent over row. So what we're going to do is push back, get that nice stretch in there. I'm going to allow for a bit of knee bend, and I'm going to try and get my spine almost parallel to the ground, as parallel as I can get it. And we're working on this row pattern, so squeezing up, little pause, 1, 2 with light weights, 1, 2, pauses are great, 1, 2 to get some extra work, 1, 2. So I don't have big 50s here, 1, 2, but with the right weight, 1, 2, I can get a good burn out of things. So I'm pushing the floor apart with my glutes, so my hips are working the whole time. I'm bent over so my spine is working. I'm keeping a nice good posture, I'm not looking up, I'm keeping that chin tucked in. If I want to make this nastier, I take the weight further away from my middle. And this becomes a fly, so look at the difference. Weights are close to my midline, not so nasty. Weights are far from my midline, way nastier. Keep my head screwed in. So working those pauses. So we got a row or a fly. Whew. Great way to take an exercise and make it a little more demanding is taking the weights further away from your middle. Puts a lot more strain on all those postural muscles, so you have to have great posture control before you do it. If you're trying that exercise, you look like this every time. Not only do you look ridiculous, you're probably doing ridiculous things to your spine, your rotator cuff in your shoulder, and definitely your neck. So play it smart. If you're trying to be a bodybuilder and really build specific muscle in little corners of your back and neck, you're going to need to put form aside and look a little ridiculous. But for most of us who are just trying to gain better, feel better, perform better, and work in life, we don't need those extra little flares. Unless you're really super strong and know exactly what you're doing, you're just going to piss things off. Whew. So we're back to the deadlift. I need more water.
What an accessory like a glute bridge?
Oh. We'll do that as a good burnout. Ben brought a good question about an accessory for the glutes. We started in those half positions, getting you to really squeeze your glutes to get that glute engagement. So we worked on it there, but it's a good point, Ben. We'll do some more focused work on the glutes and get some different positions to feel that come alive in. So to our deadlift, same as a squat. I like challenging balance a ton, great for your brain. You know, we don't need to be lifting thousands of pounds for the most part. We need to have good balance so we don't hurt ourselves in life. So our single leg deadlift, we're going to use some weights in here as a nice counterbalance. Sitting back and big squeeze up. If you can do this without the other foot hitting the ground all the way through, amazing. If you got to use something for some help, fantastically fine too. So again, what this looks like, I'm nice and tall and long, pushing back into my hip, trying to get as far back as I can to get a stretch in that hamstring a little bit, and in this hip, and squeeze up. So my foot's working hard, my ankle's working hard, my back's working hard. You can use that toe for some help. And if you need to, if you got something behind you, you can aim to hit something for some balance. Whoops, I'm tall, but I'm not that tall. And that gives you some balance. So you can use little assists like that as you need them. Oh, great exercise. Next leg. Again, work my balance first. Can I get this position A? And I'm going to shift back. So if you're a gamer, or even more so a cyber athlete, we need good posture, absolutely. We need good nerve conductance. Esports is primarily a cognitive sport, it's a neurological sport. So you need your nervous system working perfectly. If you're trying on these exercises, and they're way too tough to learn, way too tough to manage and do, it's exhausting. Mentally almost more than physically. So you got to pick variations you can do confidently. Challenge yourself so that you're able to deal with risk and you're able to deal with stressful situations. That's how general fitness improves gaming performance and improves your neural performance if you're practicing good posture, so that when you're in game, you can hold better posture for longer, keep pressure off tissues for longer, so you don't restrict your blood flow, restrict your nervous system flow. That's why chiropractors exist, is because nerves get in pain and they don't function properly. We want to get you in the right position, in the right shape, with the right strength and endurance, so you don't have to worry about chiropractic unless you have a bad fall somewhere. So that you're ideally keeping pressure off these systems as much as possible, and they're there for emergent care, or surgeries, emergency care. Not how you want to be performing when you're 2 or 3 years into your career looking for some surgery. Get this stuff down right, and things are golden. Take another sip of water after those deadlifts. Whew. Make sure you're hydrating well and fueling well. You'll see information around our partnership with BioSteel through the interwebs. If you have questions about that, let us know. We use them as a suggested nutrition beverage and product because it's well-sourced products. It's not a bunch of crap you can't digest. It's not sourced from Lord knows where. It's really just good quality stuff. That or water is the nectar of the gods. So we're coming back down to the ground and we're going to look at the hips a little bit more. Bang brought up a good question. If we think of ourselves sitting gaming for long periods of time, we're literally sitting on these muscles and just compressing them. They don't function well when they're sat on, they function well when they're moved. Your glutes are a big muscle. They do hip extension up and down, and they do some rotation. So we're going to look at a combination of those two movements with this exercise called a bridge. So, how's my position, man? Can they see me okay? I can't see the camera. Can they see me all right? Yep. So what we're going to work on is this hip extension. So first you got to find that neutral spine we built earlier. And you got to create a bit of stiffness and brace. And we're going to squeeze your butt cheeks together. And as you keep squeezing, your hips should go higher and higher as you continue to squeeze. The squeeze is bringing the cheeks together like you're trying to grab a $1,000 bill. So really good grab in there. You should feel maybe a little stretch in here. And if you feel any strain in your back, it's probably because you've lost that position. So make sure you've got the right pelvis position. We're squeezing those glutes. We can hold for 5, upwards of 10 seconds, depending on who's prescribing and what the reason is for. And just before your butt hits the ground and you're just about to lose that tension, re-squeeze and push up again. So we're trying to get you used to keeping tension and activity in these big glutes. It should feel like they're almost spinning your femurs, your upper leg bones out as you squeeze up. Because not only do they push up, they spin out. So those big glutes working hard. So we're getting a bit of the extension and a bit of the rotation. Next, we're going to challenge one side's ability to keep that rotation by lifting one leg up. If you can keep it, you're good. If it's weak in the rotation, you'll notice this hip drops. So now we're checking that ability to resist rotation. So again, squeeze up. Make sure in that squeeze, try and pick one leg up without twisting. If you can keep it up, you're getting a good glute. And you're also going to challenge all these muscles around your core. So this is a pretty advanced progression. So if just getting up and down on 2 legs is tough, don't try the march. If you're feeling like a rock star, try some marching. And from here, you can just try marching side to side. Get your hands off the ground for less support. Get your arms off the ground for even less support. Oh, nasty. Oh yeah, this is not fun, but it's good for me, I swear. Oh, yeah. I've done deadlifts again, so this is a post-fatigue exercise. Maybe worth 2 or 3 experimental rounds earlier in your workout to see if you can talk to these muscles. Not something to do right before doing a hard deadlift. Get your brain in there, see if you can talk to them, see if you can do those things. And I suggest if you are deadlifting or lunging or squatting or stepping up and you can't pull that movement off, at least 8 to 10 steps per side, you probably shouldn't be doing those bigger moves. You should be getting some different programming. Otherwise, you're just going to cause extra rotation of that hip and lower back segment, SI joint and lower back, even up into the upper back, depending on how your core is. And it's just not worth the risk, especially if you're gaming. We need this to function ideally. We can't have you compromising your lower back by trying to do crazy fitness things. We need you gaming your best, feeling your best, to perform your best. Sweaty Sundays is officially sweaty for me. 10 minutes, thank God. Now we're going to do a little fun combination exercise. So we talked about doing little sets of 3 exercises. So we did a push, pull, and a squat or a lunge or squat or a deadlift variation. Next we're going to combine things into one. So this is one of my favorite exercises. This is the Turkish get-up. So this is getting crazy advanced, but it's one of my favorites, so you're going to see it anyways. So what we got here is a 6'3" guy trying to fit into a low carpet, A. B, what we're working on is this rotator cuff. So the rotator cuff that Ben asked us to talk about earlier, it's working really hard to keep this arm parallel to the ground, perpendicular to the ground all the way through. So the first part, this is the baby get up, is can you crunch and come down? Good breathing. Inhale down, crunch up. So we're rolling onto the shoulder. 2 is shoulder to elbow. So we're going shoulder, back. So back, shoulder, elbow. And again, my arm should be staying perpendicular to the ground. It's not here, it's not all over the place, it's right in place. So if I had a glass of water in there, it wouldn't be spilling. And next motion is to try and get into a arm raise. So we're elbow, back, shoulders. Next is a bridge. Can I bridge up and keep this position? And bridge down. Elbow, back, and down. Now I'm going to get right up, through the bridge, into a lunge. Nasty. So this exercise is a great little transition. So we're 1, 2. 1, 2. So you see it 90 degrees, arms parallel to the ground, head's looking straight ahead, looking up at that weight to make sure it's in the right spot. I'm going to step up. So I'm down, down, up, up, down, down, up, up. Whew. Tired in the shoulders. All my rotator cuff just had to work that whole time there as I kept that weight up and down from the ground. We're going to work on the other side to see if there's any differences, and we'll roll from there. Whew. So again, shoulders set, elbows down. My first motion is that little baby get up. And I get there to there. Straight up onto my shoulder, and straight down, keeping that weight nice and stable. So I got 3 of those. Next is my elbow. I'm going to come up and right down. The Turkish get up. I'm in. So elbow down again, same side as has the weight. We're crawling up, crunch up, 2, bridge, and I'm here. So I'm going to go from this tall 90-90 and down. Big squeeze up, down. Big squeeze up, down. Big squeeze up. I'm working on my lunge. If you're watching Twitch, you see we're doing some exciting stuff with Santorin. Great young kid working hard, trying to help him perform at his best this year for his new team. And there's one nasty exercise broken down into some meaningful pieces for you. So, to come back to the glute stuff we just worked on and the rotator cuff, all done in one exercise. So one, that rotator cuff is working as my arm and my body's in different positions. Rotator cuff's working up all the time. Two, because I gotta get that bridge in there and the lunge up, my glutes are working all the time. It's a very advanced exercise, but awesome. That's a good goal for you to work towards, rather than think about worrying about lifting 10,000 pounds or deadlifting 1,000,000 pounds. We need to be able to move really well. And that's basically getting up and down from the ground with something in your hands. Killer exercise, very hard to do, lots of good stuff. Whew. We didn't screw him on YouTube Live. Well, some kind of alert there, this is exciting. We're being directed all over the place. So Sweaty Sundays is almost done. With that in mind, apparently my famous pit stains aren't so noticeable in the black shirt. But we still have 7 minutes left, and my kindly assistant and our CEO, Ben, has just upped the fan, and it feels great. But is it loud?
It's better than the
Yeah? Okay. So you're getting some white noise as well. So, our little finishing move. Little finishing circuit, 7 minutes left for your Sweaty Sundays. We're going to go through a nice big complex. So we're going to go through a hamstring stretch, so a straight leg deadlift, squeeze. We're going to step forward into a bit of a lunge position, a miniature split squat position. So we're now a little pump in those legs. Nice press up, 2, 3, and back down, step into it. Okay, deadlift stretch, other leg forward slightly. We're going to curl up to our shoulders, and a little pump for the legs, 1. Just a little pump, 2. The pump in the leg practices that nice knee line we were talking about before. So I'll watch forward for you. So we got 1 nice little stretch in the hamstrings. 2, you're watching those knees, they're going straight up and down. There's a simple way to practice that knee line to make sure that you're not all over the place with those knees. I want those knees out, straight ahead. Good, back into it for that stretch. Let's take this a little tougher. We'll do 3 of our flies. 1, 2, keeping that stretch. 3, and back in. Nice. Again from the side, nice neutral spine. Push it back. Thanks, Peacefully Evil. You're playing around. 1, nice big stretch, nice neutral spine. 2, 3. Again, if you've got any kind of neck and wrist issues, neck and spine issues, just work on the row from here. So keep your stretch, 2, 3. The row's nice and easy on those joints. Oh, this is getting easier as you keep the weights in your hands. So we're going to that lunge position we played with earlier. So we're 90 degrees and 90 degrees, hip extension. We're going to work on 1 arm up and 1 arm down. And we're just going to do this hacksaw Jim Duggan move. Killer exercise. You notice my spine's got to work really hard not to twist around, right? I'm straight up and down. I'll do about 3, and I'll switch sides for you so you can take a look. You got 1, glutes engaged. 2, I got my nice tall posture. 3, I've got some weights in my hands, but you can do this with soup cans, really. Straight up and down. The weight's going to want to lean you back and forth. You just stay nice and tall. Oh, shoulders are dying. Whew. And I think we still have time left. So I'm going to do more for you. We're going to work on a little shoulder press using the lunge for momentum. So I'll spin a little bit for you. So primarily my front leg. Back down. Use my legs for momentum. Trying to throw that weight up. Oh. Get used to some more dynamic movements here. So again, nice tall posture. I'm in position. can step right up. And you notice at the top of my position there, if that's difficult with the weights, just work that with your hands. Can I get here, or does it look like this? Only try this if you can get into this nice tall position. So again, we're down. To look from the front, making sure these knees are working the way we talked about earlier. We're down, straight ahead. And step in if I want, but my knees aren't all over the place. They're nice and straight up and down. Getting those arms straight up overhead and keeping them there, great for my rotator cuff. Back down, no weights in my hand. I'm gonna finish up with this little VW exercise. So I'm back into my hinge. Well, when I get nasty, I can do it single leg. I'm gonna get into this W position and reach out to a V for 3, 2, 1. Switch sides. 2 points for Scotty. Push it back. Nice stretch. Again. 1, 2, 3. I'm in a good tall position. I got my ears in line with my body. So I'm only practicing these movements because they fix me in this nice, good posture. I get tired, challenge my ability to hold this good posture. Keep stronger through these tissues. I gotta breathe harder. You just stop resting in between, and exercises get nastier and nastier. Peaceful Evil, thanks so much for coming out and playing. Dead Stroke, I love you. We missed you here today, though, brother. And generally speaking, that's pretty much it for Sweaty Sundays. You notice today was a little sweatier. Expect things to keep getting sweatier. Expect the demands and the exercises and the themes to get more challenging. We're going to start showing you some of the elite coaching that we do, some of the advanced principles we use to coach and train. So we'll get into some of those details. We'll also cover questions about aches and pains and improving posture, obviously, because you know that's another one of the big goals we get in our emails often. So shoot us notes at Game Without Pain, send us tweets, we love it there. Let us know what's up. We'll keep you in the loop of how we do with the gamers we're working with and the cyber athletes we're playing with. There's great things coming from the industry. We're really excited to be a partnership with a bunch of fantastic groups. So we'll keep you in the loop there. But if you're curious about what we're up to, follow us at Game Without Pain on Twitch. We're there increasingly, Twitter for sure, and Facebook we have our Game Without Pain Academy. You can check in there and let us know if you have any questions. Some of our team members are posting videos of their progress. We'd love to see how you're using the Academy material. It's there to help all of us gamers get a better start to our fitness. And of course, we're around for more advanced questions if you have any aches and pains or real performance goals. Thanks so much. Enjoy your Sunday. I'm toast. I was sweatier.